For today's video, I do want to speak about the Barcelona player availability. Barcelona's next game is going to be against PSG. It's going to be a huge game, and it is going to be one of the factors that is going to be deciding whether Xavi Hernandez will have continuity with Barcelona. And so if Barcelona can win away, it's going to be a huge advantage. Keep in mind that the PSG fans are going to be very present, and the atmosphere that we are going to be playing in is going to be very difficult. Combine that with Kylian Mbappe starting, Dembélé also starting, and with Luis Enrique being in charge, knowing Barcelona very well, Barcelona have to go into this game against PSG fully healthy and with a elite mentality. So this match is going to be very difficult, and it's important for us to have our best players. And it says here, according to Sport, that Pedri, Frenkie, Araujo, and Christensen were all in the training center earlier today with their own respective plans to be 100% for the first leg against PSG. Keep in mind that this is also a day where it is considered like a holiday. They were supposed to take the day off, but these players continued to train, and they wanted to fast forward the recovery process, which is always great news. To see that these players want to come back as soon as possible and make it for the match against PSG is very important. Barcelona really want to make things happen. Gabriel Sanz even said that Christensen will for sure be available against PSG. Rack 1 also claimed that Barcelona expect all players, excluding Gavi and Balde, will be available against PSG for the first leg. Pedri and Frenkie de Jong will start training with the group this week to be fit for the game against PSG. Sport even claimed that everything does indicate that Frenkie de Jong in particular will be available for the first leg against PSG. The club expects Frenkie and Pedri to be in the squad, but they are a little more cautious with Pedri's case. And that is only because Pedri has been through way more serious injuries compared to Frenkie. And this is where Alfredo Martinez wants to come along and speak about Pedri specifically, and this is what he said. Pedri is in the final stretches of his recovery. Barcelona have been very cautious with him, but are also very quite optimistic. Very positive feelings, and he is not ruled out for any of the games versus PSG yet. But if there is no setbacks, he will certainly be ready for the game against Real Madrid. The club says that Pedri has been mentally very strong, and after the injury, he's been doing much better than they could have imagined. He has matured a lot with these last setbacks and is very confident of returning strongly and maintaining a very high pace. So you can just get a sense that these players are doing everything that they can to make sure they are available against PSG. The amount of times Xavi had to deal with injuries during games has been so much. More than Arteta, more than Pep Guardiola, more than Klopp, more than Ancelotti. Xavi Hernandez went through many squad injuries. As a matter of fact, it has been so bad that at one point through the season, we lost Pedri and Frenkie in the same game. Rafinha, who has been Barcelona's most effective winger, went through 3 injuries. Also with Gavi, right? Gavi is out for the rest of the season. We had him in our plans in the beginning of this season, but ever since he got injured, Barcelona had to take a hit. It's one of the reasons why between the months of November and through February of 2024, Barcelona came out with very poor results, is because Gavi was supposed to be in the CDM role and give Barcelona more stability. That was Xavi's solution, and that was one of the sporting plans that we had. It was to stick Frenkie and Gavi together, but Xavi only had so many ideas. But even until today, we're still standing with a chance to maybe win La Liga and to maybe even win the Champions League. And so in the end, I just pray that Barcelona finish this season strong and healthy with all of these players coming back. And this is what's going to lead me towards the next conversation and speak about the 5 players that are going to be so essential for the match against PSG. Like, if we have these 5 players in the starting 11 that I am about to name, Barcelona have a high chance of beating Luis Enrique's team. Player number 1 for me is going to be Christensen. Christensen for sure has to be in this game. It leaves me very uneasy knowing that when he is not playing as a CDM, Barcelona do struggle a lot. Like, it leaves me very uneasy also to see that Gundogan, Fermin Lopez, and Sergio Roberto are starting in the midfield, and we don't really have a true CDM. I always pray every time we see these 3 players together that Barcelona don't concede, because defensively we are very weak with those 3 players starting in the midfield. Christensen does give that balance, and that is why I do say he must feature in the match against PSG. Not just feature, I want to make it very clear, we need him to start. Moving on towards player number 2, and that is Rafinha. Now, just to give you guys some context, I was looking at PSG, and PSG for me has been a team that has been very unbalanced. They have a weak midfield. Sometimes they do go through mental breakdowns, and they concede a lot of goals, and they lack a lot of leadership. And one of the ways they like to combat their problems through the games is by simply just giving the ball to Kylian Mbappe, and that's basically it. They're a team that is led through Kylian Mbappe, and they do tend to have a high defensive line, and that is why I do want to introduce Rafinha, because Rafinha is going to be very important for us to make those runs behind the defense. PSG will focus on Kylian Mbappe to maybe score the goals, but if Barcelona can take the ball away from Kylian Mbappe as fast as possible and expose PSG and their defensive setup, we can definitely make those those runs behind the defense, and Rafinha is really good at that. PSG will also definitely not sit back. They're not going to do that. They know that this is a must-win game. They have to score, and that is where Barcelona can take advantage and really punish PSG with the open spaces they leave behind. Moving on towards player number 3, and that is Lewandowski. If there was one player that I expect to show up for sure, that is Lewandowski. And I say that because he is a Champions League expert. This is a player that has been in Champions League tournaments more than anybody else in this Barcelona squad. He is a complete veteran and somebody who has been in so many Champions League knockout rounds. But the only way Lewandowski can deliver by scoring goals is if he gets the deliveries. Like, this is a player that depends on good service, and it's going to be up to our wingers, our midfielders to really service Lewandowski well in order for him to score the 2 to 3 goals that he is capable of doing. So we are going to be needing Lewandowski in his top game. We have to score goals, and one of the ways that we can do that is by using one of the best strikers in the world effectively. Moving on towards player number 4, and that is going to be Gundogan. Now, like I've said about Lewandowski, Gundogan is also somebody very experienced in the Champions League. I know that we have just talked about how Pedri is fighting back to get into the first leg against PSG, and that Pedri is doing well fitness-wise. He is doing amazing. I still think that even though Pedri is going to be available, Gundogan will get the start over Pedri. I do expect for our midfield to be Christensen and Frenkie forming the double pivot, leaving only one more room in the midfield, which is the number 8 position, and the only player that I can give that to, it is Gundogan. Gundogan has Champions League experience. He won the UCL recently. He was the protagonist for Pep Guardiola, and if you place him in a high area as a number 8, not as a number 6, like what we see every time we see Gundogan, Sergio Roberto, and Fermin Lopez, but as a number 8, he can be really effective for you. If you place him high and sit next to Lewandowski, he can be that connector for you for the front 3. He can be the one that can always be available for Lamine Yamal or Lewandowski or Rafinha, and find Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal. He can do everything when you place him in the correct areas. Through the season, it has been seen that Gundogan always delivers in high-stake moments, like when Barcelona really need it and they really need a goal or an assist. Gundogan tends to show up, and this is not like a coincidence, but like he was doing this with Man City last season. So Gundogan is a big game player, and he has to start for Barcelona. Moving on towards the last player, and that is going to be Araujo. Look, one of the reasons why Luis Enrique takes out Kylian Mbappe very early in the games, and why he has been doing that so recently in the past 45 matches, is because he wants his team to learn how to play without Kylian Mbappe. That is a very valid reason. But another reason why I believe that he is taking out Mbappe extremely early all the time is to keep Mbappe fresh and for the very important matches coming up ahead. And one of them is against FC Barcelona, meaning that it is very likely for Barcelona to face a very fresh, energized Kylian Mbappe. And because Mbappe is going to be playing on the left wing, Koundé is going to be our player to defend against Mbappe, because Koundé is our right back. Now, don't get me wrong, Koundé has been spectacular. I do think that he is the best right back in the world currently. But in the pace that Mbappe runs, and in the way that he likes to attack the open spaces behind the defense, you're going to need somebody like Araujo play alongside Jules Koundé and to play as the right center back. And so yes, you heard that correctly. I do think that Araujo and Koundé together must form a great duo on the right flank to make sure that Kylian Mbappe does not say a word and make sure that he does not exist in the 2 legs. Araujo is a much faster defender compared to Koundé, so if Kylian Mbappe wants to go on a 1v1 with Koundé, Araujo is always going to be there to back up Koundé in case Koundé does lose the battle. We can also argue that maybe Araujo should play as a right back against PSG, but like I just don't see Araujo playing as a right back and Koundé as a center back when Koundé plays much better as a right back than as a center back. Like, let me put it to you like this. If you have Araujo and Koundé, right, and you have Araujo as a right back and Koundé as a right center back, you're gonna get a 6.5 out of 10 performance on the right flank defensively. But if you have Koundé as a right back and Araujo as a center back, you're going to be getting a 9 out of 10 defensive performance. Not a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, but a 9 out of 10 defensive performance. Maybe even a 10 out of 10 defensive performance. Koundé and Araujo simply play much better in their respective positions. There is no reason for us to change our player position just because of one player. We have to play our own game, and that is by having a defensive line of Koundé, Araujo, Kubarsi, and Cancelo, and with Araujo leading the back line. But that is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.